Hi, my name is Amanda Sears, and I am the horticulture agent in Madison County, Kentucky. And today I'll be talking about perennial basics, and this is part of the Impatient Gardener series. Thanks for joining today. First off, what is a perennial? And a perennial is a plant that lives for more than 2 growing seasons. And just to review, an annual is a plant that lives for 1 season. A biennial lives for 2, and so a perennial lives for more than 2. And you might think, well, trees are a plant that grow more than 2 years, and you'd be right. They are technically perennial. But for today, we'll be talking about herbaceous perennials. And by that, I mean a plant that dies back in the winter, but its roots remain alive, and in the spring will send up stems and buds up from the ground level. There are a lot of different kinds of perennials, and some are short-lived and that can only live maybe a few years, and others may live decades. They are actually a shorter blooming time, so there are some that would bloom in early, mid, late year. So it's nice when you are starting to think about landscaping to maybe remember when that particular perennial would be in bloom so that it can be maximized for beauty. And you may want to incorporate annuals that might have a longer blooming time into that area. We in Kentucky, or in southeast or central Kentucky here, are considered zone 6B by the hardiness map. So when you are ordering or buying plants, make sure that the plant is registered for this zone. Zones to the south are warmer in the winter than we are, and if you buy a plant that grows in a more southerly area, it may not survive the winter here. And make sure and match the perennial to the site that you want to plant and not the site to the perennial. And by that I mean, think about where you want to plant the plant. Is it good drainage? Is it shady? Because there are a lot of perennials that may fit into that area. But if you go to the store and buy a perennial and then bring it home, it may be harder to acclimate it if you don't have the right area. Now, I do have a list of sources at the end of this presentation, and at least one of them goes into detail about different varieties and types of perennials. And another book that you may want to look at is one called The Well-Tended Perennial Garden. Very great pictures, and it goes into a lot of details on the different types of perennials. So, like I said, when you're choosing your plants, there's a lot to think about. Since they don't bloom all summer or spring, you want to look for things that are different textures, different heights, and a lot of them have pretty foliage as well. So think about height when you're looking at your landscaping. So when you go to purchase a perennial, they're almost always in bloom when you purchase them, which is great so that you can kind of get an idea what they're going to look like. Make sure they're healthy. That should be compact in a dark green color on the foliage. Don't buy plants that are leggy, which means maybe they're very tall and thin. That means they've probably not been receiving enough light. And also avoid ones that maybe have some insect damage. So make sure and really look the plant over before you purchase it, especially if it may have a disease or an insect problem, because that means if you take it home, you could be introducing some pathogens and some problems into your own garden. And finally, and this is something sometimes hard to think of, consider how large the plant will be when it is fully grown. Because if it's going to be really much bigger than the area you have, it may not establish as well, or I guess the other problem would be it may outcompete other plants nearby. So just have an idea. So make sure and research what you're planting. As always, it's a good idea to, especially on a new site, do a soil test and look to see what the pH of the area is. We, in our central Kentucky here, tend to be a little bit high on pH, and that might be a problem for some plants. Make sure your drainage is good. So we tend to also have heavy clay soils, and so if drainage is a problem, consider maybe doing a raised bed. For when you're preparing the area, I would kill and remove the sod from the area if there's grass there, and work the ground down to about at least 8 inches, but preferably 12 inches deep. And then to the entire area, I would add 3 or 4 inches of compost and work it in. And just as a note, compost, and I'll talk about it again a little bit later, can be done every year. Watering is important, of course, and I think this is one of those things, along with fertilization, that maybe people do a little bit too much. They love their plants so much, and they want them to survive, and so they maybe over care for them. But I thought it was interesting. I didn't know this, but perennials that are said to be drought tolerant are only drought tolerant after they have become established. And so that means that when you put that plant out the first year, it's going to still need plenty of water, an inch a week preferably, to get established. Now, most plants require an inch of a week, and a lot of times, throughout most of the year, we may receive that, but there's almost always a time in the summer when we are dry, and it can last a month when we may not be getting that much rain. So an inch a week, it can either be from the sky or it can be from the faucet, but just make sure the plants are receiving as much as they can, or I'm sorry, as much as they need so that they can be established. Soak the plants immediately after planting, and that'll help kind of the soil kind of get settled into the area. And when you are watering, don't do it a little bit every day. Instead, do deeper waterings. And what I mean by that is water longer so the water can seep in deeper. And that will actually encourage perennials as well as other plants, if you're looking at trees or your garden, to grow deeper roots. And that'll help them be more drought tolerant and just be stronger plants. One thing that you can do to kind of help the plants to reduce the need for frequent watering is the addition of mulch to the area, because it can help the transpiration of water from going up there. So mulching can always help, and also with weeding problems. So again, and I mentioned, I think people sometimes over fertilize. Most perennials do not need a bunch of extra fertilizer. A few inches of compost is probably maybe all they would need in the spring. So if you do think that you need fertilizer, I wouldn't use anything that's very strong. Over fertilized perennials will produce excessive green growth, and because what's happening is all the energy is and nutrients are going into that green growth of the leaves and to the detriment of the flower, and so you're not going to be getting as many good flowers as you would have otherwise. You might, depending on the perennial that you're growing, you may need to stake the plant, and a plant that naturally goes taller than it is wide may need to be staked. And you may not have to stake it every year, but what may happen, if we may get a windstorm, or the plant may get a little bit taller than usual and it may fall over. So it's a good idea, if you're having a problem like that, to think about staking. Unfortunately, a lot of times it may be that by the time you think, oh, I need to stake that, the plant may be so tall that it's a little bit difficult. So you want to go ahead and stake early in the spring, and so that the plant can grow up over it and then hide the stake itself. And there's a good publication at the end of the presentation that talks about staking, and it talks about using stake, what kind of stakes to use, bamboo sticks. But I do know from working at a hardware store that there are some metal cages and things that you can buy. You put them over the plant, and the plant would grow through it. So just do your research on what might work best for you. But ideally, you would want to put, again, the stakes in early in the season, and that way, as a plant grows, it'll hide the stakes. Deadheading is something that I normally think of more with annual plants, but it is nice to do it in perennials as well, and for the same reasons. And it's not required, but it does make the garden look neater and nice. The reason you deadhead, and that again is the removal of flowers as they start to fade, is that by doing that, you're not allowing the plant to produce seeds, and instead the energy that would have gone towards seed production goes instead into the root development and other strengthening of the plant. And so that helps. And we also do that with our annual flowers. So some plants also, if you're deadheading mid-season, can put on another flush of flowers. So what you do as the bloom fades, just pinch or cut off the flower stem to just above the first set of leaves. So you hear a lot about dividing plants and propagation, and it does vary between the different types of perennials. Some respond well to division and some do not. And you can see at the picture on the right, it's a little hard to see, but I think this is a good example. If you can kind of look at the center of that clump, it looks like there's nothing growing there. And that is one symptom or sign that the plant is in need of division. A couple other things to look at is if the flowers are starting to get smaller, or if the plant isn't as vigorous as it used to be, or maybe that the foliage isn't as lush as it was once. And so what you would do is actually ideally dig up the whole plant and cut it or divide it into several smaller pieces. You wouldn't want to make it into more than 3 to 5. If you start to get into a lot of smaller pieces, those will be less likely to make it. Another thing to think about is before you take the plant about before you divide, before you divide it, to water it really well. And while that might make it muddy and a little harder to work with, that will help keep the root ball together. And also, once you have it divided, you can put one of the divisions back in the hole where you had the plant, if that's where you'd like to keep it. And then you have new plants to either put in the garden elsewhere, give away, or if nothing else, you can compost them if you don't have anything else to do with them. Now, one tip, don't divide when the flower is in bloom. It'll stress the plant. Speaking of dividing, now that you have divided your plant, and one last thing, you don't have to always dig up the plant when you're dividing. If you're like me and you don't want to dig it up completely from the ground, what you can do is take a shovel and just cut it in half and dig up that half. Probably not as efficient, but that also works well. So once you have that new plant, go ahead and dig the hole, and you might want to amend the area with organic matter. Fill the hole with water and let it drain really well, and then put the perennial either from the pot that you purchased or the plant that you maybe just divided into the hole, and water it again and mulch it. Now, you don't want to put the plant in any deeper than it was where it was growing previously, or where it was in the pot. And you may be thinking, well, I've purchased perennials before, and they're potted, and sometimes they're a bit root bound. And that happens. If you can, when you're purchasing the plant, make sure if you can, to kind of check to see, maybe you can pop it out of the pot just a little. Root bound plants tend to pop out a little easier. So sometimes we can't see that or realize that until we get it home. And so I would ideally try to maybe take my fingers and massage those roots loose, and kind of so they're not quite so bound. Just an idea. So with fall care, once you get a couple of hard freezes, you will go ahead and the plants will have died back. You want to cut and remove the dead leaves and stems and the flowers to a few inches above the ground. And what we've talked about before with disease control is we don't really want to leave that debris there with the area where it's growing, in case there was some diseases or insects on them. So what we would normally do if it's flowers, we would compost them. But one thing to think about, and I think this is a good reason to not burn them or to throw them away, is there are potentially good insects that might be overwintering there. And so maybe they're in a cocoon or they've gone into dormancy. And so you don't want to destroy it because it may be beneficial. And so this is actually a picture of our garden here at the office. So what I do is I put the cuttings into our woods and let them die back there, or degrade back there, so that on the off chance that we may have monarchs or something else that are coming off of our plants. So fall is also a good time to transplant and divide your spring and summer blooming perennials. And fall blooming, you would divide in the spring. And now pests and diseases, it depends a lot on the plant and you're growing. Like I've mentioned, there's a lot of different kinds of perennials. And I didn't mention it before when you were purchasing your plants, but make sure and kind of look the plants over very much. Look on the bottoms of leaves, look at the stems, and make sure that you're not putting having insects or any diseases that may be popping up there. So we've talked before about drainage issues, and if the roots stay wet very long, you could potentially get a root rot. And then what you would see that if that's happening is that the plant starts to wilt and almost like it needs watering, but it's not recovering after you water it. And when you dig it up, a lot of times roots will be blackened or dark gray. Now, powdery mildew you see on the picture to the right, and that basically looks like baby powder on the leaves. And with that, to me, that's almost always an indicator that there's not a lot of airflow. Now, some plants are just more likely to have it, but it's not going to hurt the plant, although it's unsightly. So you could either remove some of the plants, or next year remember that this was an issue and maybe not plant them as closely together. Where we are so wet and humid here, a lot of times maybe by late summer, a lot of plants are starting to get that. Slugs really like wet areas, and I tend to think of them as a lot being on hostas. There are some cultural ways to control slugs. I know a lot of slug baits are very toxic, so be careful with that. And again, try to not have areas where a lot of water is accumulating. That top picture there is actually spider mites on a plant, and the symptom there, the sign that is a spider mite, is called stippling. And what it is on the back side of the leaf, the spider mites are actually sucking the juices from the leaf, and it's making the top of the leaf look like this. Now, there are some insects that also will have this kind of symptoms. Now, a spider mite is not an insect, and what happens is people see this and they panic and they start to spray a bunch of insecticides, and then it kills all the insects, but it doesn't kill the spider mite. So if you do treat your plants, make sure you have an idea of what is going on, because by just spraying a widespread chemical, you may kill a lot of beneficial insects. And in the case of spider mites, what I see a lot of times is people kill all the good insects, and then the spider mites remain, and then the number of spider mites explodes. So just make sure, and if you aren't sure what's going on, send me a picture, bring by a sample. I'm more than happy to look at it and talk to you about it. Now, the picture on the bottom is actually from my flower bed, and those are leaf miners, and that's on the columbine, which they, for some reason, tend to have a lot of leaf miners. What that is a very small insect that lays its eggs on the inside of the leaf, and as the baby in there grows, it tunnels all through the leaf and then will leave the leaf at the end of the tunnel. And once it starts to occur, there's not a lot you can do. You can remove the leaf, get it out of the area. There are some plants that are more apt to have that problem. And yes, it maybe makes for not a perfect landscape, but it's very interesting to see and watch. So sometimes in gardening, we just have to kind of go with what nature wants to give us. So my name is Amanda Sears, and my contact information is there if you have any questions about perennials or any other topic. My email address is amanda.sears@uky.edu, and you can call me at 623-4072. Thank you for listening today, and I hope to talk to you soon.